Hello, my Frugal Fit family. My name is Christine and welcome back to my channel. Today I have some exciting news. I'm doing a collaboration with my good friend Jen Chapin. If you guys have not checked out her channel, I will leave it in the first link down in the description box. If you don't know Jen and have never been to her channel, let me tell you a little bit about her. She is a full-time working mom, kills it in the meal prepping game. Even though she's a busy mom, does YouTube and works full-time and has 2 kids and carts them around to all of their various activities, she still is making all of these homemade dishes. Her keto style bagels were highly inspirational to me. As a former collegiate swimmer myself, I'm a huge fan of the fact that she puts her kids in swim team. And if you are new to my channel coming from hers, welcome. I hope you would consider subscribing before you leave this video so you don't miss any of the future videos that I have coming up. And there's one in the works I think you're really gonna like. For those that don't know me very well, I am a mom of 4 kids. I've been married for 16 years. My kids' ages are 15, 12, almost 13 in a couple weeks, 10 and 7, almost 8 in a couple weeks. I do work from home as an online instructor for a university, as well as dabbling in YouTube a little bit. I've done 3 marathons, a half Ironman, and assorted other shorter races. So I have an extensive collection of race t-shirts. In today's video, Jen and I are going to be bringing you 10 different low carb / keto style freezer meals that you can make for your family. I've got 5, and if you head over to Jen's channel, she also has 5. I did want to let you guys know that I will be linking all of the recipes that I use down in the description box for you. The first one up is a crock-pot pulled pork chili. And because I decided to double all of my recipes, I have a large family, there's 6 of us, I find that if I'm gonna go to the trouble of making something, I just wanna do it big, you know, go big or go home. So I grabbed a much larger pork roast, and I knew I wouldn't be able, well, I thought I would be able to fit it all into my crock pot, but as I was kind of chopping everything up and I looked at the crock pot, I was thinking, wow, this is not going to work. So I decided to do 1 in my 6-quart crock pot and 1 in my 6-quart instant pot. So I just had 1 big roast that I chopped in half. I don't know how you guys feel about this, but I find it very therapeutic just to sit and chop fresh vegetables. They make me so happy. They're so beautiful. I love all the colors, the crunch. I'm a huge fan of crunchy food. If there's a dish that has a big crunch in it, you're probably gonna win me over. These are all of the bell peppers that I got on clearance at Smith's. If you guys have not seen that video, I will try and link it up above and down below for you. If you wanna go check that out, I got a ton of food for just under $100 or so. I will tell you, I don't know what was up with these onions. I had 2 just yellow onions. I got them from the same bin, I think, at Walmart, and one ended up being yellow, but when I opened up the other one, it was purple. Have you guys ever had a surprise like that? I don't know what was going on with that. It was crazy. So as I made this recipe, there were a few things that stood out to me and things I would probably change for next time. So the recipe calls for a half a cup of hot sauce. And depending on the hot sauce you use, a half a cup might be too much because my chili ended up fairly spicy, even though I decided to not do any of the cayenne pepper and a very small amount of the crushed red pepper flakes, even though the recipe calls for a heaping tablespoon of crushed red pepper flakes, which is a huge amount. And I was thinking, wow, this is a lot of hot sauce, this is a lot of cayenne, this is a lot of crushed red pepper flakes, and I make my own red pepper flakes, so they're wicked spicy. So I decided to leave those out completely, and it still ended up being quite spicy. So if you wanted to cut the hot sauce that you use, I use Tabasco, in half, and maybe add a little bit more tomato sauce, that might be okay. Or perhaps cut the hot sauce out completely and then just go to the cayenne and crushed red pepper, how you prefer it. What I like about this recipe in particular is that you can make it very low carb keto friendly, which is the base of what I'm doing. But after it's cooked, if you want to add beans to it or serve it over rice or chips, you can do that if low carb isn't really your thing. But if it is, I think this is a great option. There's a lot of veggies in here, a lot of meat and fat. And of course, you can always serve it with sour cream, avocado, and cheese on top to bump your fat content and also kill the heat just a little bit. These smelled so good. And I will say that, so the Instant Pot didn't dissolve a lot of the liquid like a crock pot will, and that's pretty standard. You guys probably know that. So the crock pot one, which took a really long time, probably about 10 hours on high, was a really nice thick consistency, whereas the Instant Pot took about an hour and a half on high. at high pressure was a much more soupy consistency. So if you want the liquid dissolved a little bit more, then I would take the lid off and hit saute and let it just boil out for a little bit. I did end up freezing basically all of this. I put one container in a big Tupperware and the rest in 2 Ziploc bags. Next up, we're going to be doing the Mexican zucchini lasagna, which was extremely time consuming, but really quite a joy to kind of play with. So this recipe calls for thinly sliced zucchini as the noodles. And a lot of this zucchini and yellow squash that you see here is also part of the clearance Smith's haul. And instead of slicing it with my knife, I decided to use this slicer doodad on my cheese box grater. I will say, as I was planning for this video, I ordered myself a pretty sweet mandolin to do thin slices like this, but it didn't show up until after I had already done all this, and I couldn't wait anymore, so I had to go ahead and record it. But I will say that little slicer on the box grater worked pretty well. It was a quick work of it. So you're gonna sprinkle these with salt and bake them in the oven for a while, mostly to get the moisture out because there's a lot of water content in zucchini and squash and you don't want your lasagna to be all soupy. And like I said, remember I doubled all these recipes. So this is 2 pounds of beef right here. I have 2 full onions that I'm adding and 2 cloves of garlic. And I cooked all of that together along with some taco seasoning. And I did bump the taco seasoning based on what the recipe said. For 1 serving, it says 1 tablespoon and 1 teaspoon of taco seasoning, and I probably did about 4 or 5 tablespoons total for the doubled recipe, so definitely more than it originally said to do. And then it was assembling all of the different components of the lasagna. My ricotta cheese ended up on the top shelf of my refrigerator, which has a cold air vent. And so half of this block is like totally frozen. I had to put it in the microwave a little bit to kind of thaw it out so I could actually mix it and use it. The sauce is a combination of tomato sauce and salsa, which I thought was cool. You could just go straight salsa actually. Just pick whatever salsa you like. That one I had right there is not my favorite, but I have a lot of it, and so I figured it would be a good use for it. Some eggs in the ricotta. You'll notice I have my 2 like throwaway foil containers that I picked up at Sam's a little while back. I shredded some pepper jack cheese and cheddar cheese and mixed them together for my cheese blend, and then just chopped up 2 heads of fresh cilantro, also to layer into my lasagnas. I don't make lasagnas very often in any way, shape, or form in my house, mostly because the prep work of all the components takes a long time, and then the layering process, at least to me, seems to take a long time. Tell me if you agree with that, or if you just think I'm nuts and lazy probably. Like I said before, if I'm gonna make the mess and do all the components, I'm going to make 2 or 3 or 4 lasagnas. So today I only stuck with 2. Everything smelled really good, and as I was building these, I just thought it was so pretty. Do you guys think food is pretty like this? I will say a lot of the flavor comes from the meat and the salsa. I kind of like that I went a little heavier on the taco seasoning on the meat, because depending on how much salt you put on the zucchini, that's not going to be a lot of flavor. The ricotta doesn't have a lot of flavor. I mean, it's really rich, but as far as like strong, bold flavors, not so much. These lasagnas, you are going to cook all the way through in the oven, and then we'll freeze them after that. So after I cooked these, I let them cool off on the counter all the way, and then covered them with saran wrap and foil and labeled them and stuck them in the freezer. So when it comes time to actually cook them, you're gonna pull them out like the morning of and let them thaw on the counter all day. And remember, they're just fully cooked. So all you're gonna do is just stick them in the oven to heat through, basically, is all you're doing. Another option that you could do is cook it all the way through and then divvy it out into meal prep containers, like individual little glass containers. And then you could take them to work and just microwave them at work. A couple minutes in the microwave after thawing for half the day, and they will be good to go. I did end up cooking these a little bit longer than the instructions said in the oven. They said 375, I believe, 45 minutes, and then uncover and then do another 10 minutes. So I did the 45 with my oven on convection, which cooks a little bit faster. Took the foil off and went another 15 minutes. Just because I didn't think that they were cooked all the way through. And also wanted to mention that because there's so much moisture in this, if you do stick it in the oven and let it go a little bit long on the second rewarming, I'm not going to say cooking, it should be totally okay, because of all the liquid. We're just evaporating some of the liquid here. My family loves lasagna, and because I don't like to make it very much, well, honestly, I had a bad experience when it comes to lasagna. Dave and I worked at a Boy Scout camp for about 4 summers in a row, and we just cycled the menu over and over and over again. Like every Sunday we had the same thing, and every Monday we had the same thing. And every Sunday was Stouffer's frozen lasagna that was heated up in the big convection professional ovens. And on Wednesdays, the staff would eat leftovers from the previous days. So after 4 summers of eating frozen Stouffer's lasagna, probably twice a week, I was lasagnaed out, right? Like I just didn't want lasagna anymore. So it's not something I gravitate towards. I've like had my fill of lasagna at this point, but I did like the Mexican flavor profile of this one. So I think this one's going to suit my personal taste a little bit better. Dave was a huge fan of the way these looked and smelled, and he wanted to dig into them right away. But I was like, dude, slow down. I got to put them in the freezer. Next up, we have pesto meatballs. There's definitely a shortcut for this that I did not do, which is I made my own pesto, and you can just buy a jar of pesto, like freshly made pesto. But I made my own in my food processor. My food processor is just a Ninja attachment. I got this like 7-piece Ninja blender for Dave for Christmas 2 years ago. And so that's what you're looking at. You know, in retrospect, I should have just bought prepared pesto. It would have been easier. But I do like the idea of making your own meatballs, cooking them all the way through, and then freezing them. If you're gluten-free, like if you have celiac or something like that, that's another option. You know, it doesn't have to be that you're low carb or keto or whatever. Having issues with gluten and breadcrumbs and things like that can also be a problem with meatballs. So I like that you can make your own and stick them in the freezer. To cook these, you can just do them with some tomato sauce. You can make a meatball sub. You can serve them with spaghetti squash. There's so many different applications for meatballs like this. Which goes to show that most of the things that I'm making here, you can definitely do in a not keto style. If you want to put it on pasta, put it on pasta. Next up is the Brazilian chicken with coconut sauce over cauliflower rice. Now, the recipe did say to cook this in a skillet on your stove, but I basically tripled the amount of chicken on this one. We utilized our grill, even though it was kind of snowing outside, just because I didn't have enough room to do all of the components on my stove. I believe I had 10 pieces of chicken here. This is the clearance chicken I got from Smith's, same grocery haul, all of this. I took the skin off but left the bone in, which is really nice for grilling because it keeps it really, really tender. I love dark meat. It's one of my favorite cuts off of poultry. I don't know why everyone's so obsessed with like a chicken breast or a turkey breast, because I'm telling you, the thighs, the wings, the drumsticks, that is where it's at. I just seasoned everything in the spice blend. Again, recipes all down below. Gave it a little drizzle of olive oil, and then Dave took over on the grill for me. Next up, I'm going to rice my own cauliflower. This whole head of cauliflower was about $2.50. It was really, really big. And I'm telling you, this is exactly what the grocery stores do when they sell you prepared like riced cauliflower that's fresh. They put it in a food processor like this, pulse it a couple of times, and then package it up and sell it to you for $3 or $4 for maybe a third of what I ended up with. I ended up paying, what I say, $2.50 for the head of cauliflower and pulsed it a couple times myself in my food processor, whereas the same amount would have cost you probably $9 or $10 already riced at the grocery store. It is exactly the same. That's exactly how they do it. They just throw it in a food processor. I'm grating some garlic, some ginger here, and chopping my fresh tomatoes for my coconut sauce. We ended up eating this that night, but if you did want to freeze this, you'll see the final plate at the end, but I would portion this out into meal prep style containers and freeze them individually. That way you can thaw them in the morning and just do a quick reheat in the microwave. I think that would work the best that way. Do you guys like all the snow on our grill? Don't worry, it worked out fine. The chicken was cooked all the way through and gave Dave a nice little warm place to stand. Come live in Idaho. Doesn't it look so fun? I cooked the riced cauliflower in just a pan with butter. You could use coconut oil if you want to, but I figured I had enough coconut going on in the sauce. This was a ton. I will say my kids really liked the riced cauliflower. I've never given this to them before. And if you don't need to go low carb, just use regular rice here, and that would be totally okay as well. Mixing up the coconut sauce here with a ton of onions, the garlic, ginger, the fresh tomatoes, and you cook all of this until the onions are soft and the tomatoes have cooked down a little bit. And because I doubled this, I added 2 cans of coconut milk, and I did end up adding quite a bit of salt. I felt like it was really rich and heavy, the sauce, but it needed a punch of flavor. So I'm glad I did that. I would add green onions to the top of this when I make it again. Dave loved this dish. And so this plate right here, this is what I would probably meal prep in the containers. Lastly, we have keto breakfast biscuits stuffed with sausage and cheese. And this one was so much fun to do and also so frustrating. Another shortcut, like I mentioned earlier, is to buy just pre-packaged, like pre-cooked sausage patties. But I had sausage in the freezer, went ahead and cooked them myself. But that's definitely a time-saving tip for you. You make the dough by mixing cream cheese, mozzarella, and like melting it in the microwave for 30 seconds. And then stirring it, like 30 seconds stir, 30 seconds stir. That took, I would say 2 to 2.5 minutes total to do that. And then the other half of the dough is eggs mixed with almond flour. The dough was kind of time consuming. I would say the hardest part about the whole process, and I did double this one as well. The original recipe only makes 6 little biscuits, and that's like so not enough for me. So I decided to do 12. But making the dough, mixing the dough up together, was time consuming, and you need some muscle, because as you'll see in a second, once my mozzarella cream cheese mixture has like kind of melty and you mix it in with this almond flour egg mixture, you have got to get in there with some elbow grease to get everything mixed together. I kind of wish Dave had been home for this so I could like hand it off to him and be like, here, mix this for me. But he was out with the boys. They were out playing basketball, which, you know, is good in its own right. So there you can see my mozzarella has kind of formed like a dough ball sort of. And I'm mixing in all of my almond flour mixture. This is very, very sticky. I would recommend using a really big metal fork for the stirring process and just get in there and give yourself an arm workout. After that, you are going to have to refrigerate the dough, which I guess I didn't read ahead in the recipe. I would have done this the day before and just let it sit in the fridge overnight. And like I said, it's super, super sticky. So lay out some saran wrap and then scoop everything onto the saran wrap and stick it in the fridge. It's just too sticky to work with, and you need it to chill and harden just a little bit just to make it pliable. I ended up letting mine sit for an hour, maybe an hour and a half, while I caught up on some of my favorite YouTubers that I like to watch, including my buddy Jen, who I partnered with in this video. Okay, so here's the dough out of the fridge. I cut it into 12 equal-ish looking portions. And you can see how sticky it is still by how it's sticking to my knife. And you're supposed to basically just wrap it around 1 sausage patty and 1 piece of cheese and stick it in a muffin tin. I decided to do 6 on a cookie sheet and 6 in the jumbo muffin tins. Not the regular size ones, but like the bakery jumbo ones. Those are, you have to get the big ones or else they won't fit very well. But I found out after my first couple that if you get your hands wet with cold water in between each rolling out, it's way easier to work with. Give your hands a quick rinse in cold water, and it's still kind of sticky, but you know, it's much easier to do. I ended up baking mine in the oven for about 20 minutes each. These are bomb. These are so good. So this is the flatter one that's just on the cookie sheet. And then you'll see in just a second, right here, that the poofier ones at the top of the screen, those were baked in the muffin tin. These are delicious. I want to say my boys came home from playing basketball and ate half of them. So I made 12 and I ended up with 6, and I'm sure if I let them, they would just eat them all day long. And then I would have none to freeze. I would say I would definitely do this one again. These were really, really yummy. If you're missing the bread taste, this will hit the spot for you. And I would probably quadruple this next time, because what a winner. Oh, here are my new little toys that came from Amazon. I got a really sweet salad spinner. I haven't had one in a long time because I broke my last one. If you guys want to see a link on both of these items, I will link that down in the description box below. And here's my mandolin that didn't come in time, but I'm really excited to use it in the future. Again, links below for you. Those are all of my freezer meals for today. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, consider subscribing, hitting the notification bell so you get notifications every time I upload in the future. And if you really, really loved it and want to see more videos like this coming up, leave me a comment down below and tell me what you liked, what you didn't like, and what sort of things you are interested in. Now, once again, if you have not gone over and checked out Jen's channel, I will leave that link, first link in the description box. And as a reminder, the links to all of the recipes I've talked about in this video, I will leave those down below as well for you. Really excited about buddying up with my friend Jen is both of us have a keto lasagna recipe. Hers is more Italian style with a keto style homemade noodle that she makes with different cheeses and stuff. Mine uses zucchini noodles and is more of a taco flavored style. So no matter what your family's into and what they like, you should be able to find something that will satisfy them and fill up your freezers at the same time. I enjoyed hanging out with you guys today. I always do, and I will see you in the next video.